Good morning. Welcome to the No Way Jose podcast. This is the Morning Dump. I am your host, Jose Galison. No kitty of the day today, but you guys know what that means. We have a guest. Ken Silva will be joining us today. Now, if you like seeing my hot takes Monday through Friday around 11 a.m. Eastern, that's a goal. We don't always make it. Or if you just like seeing the kitties of the day, then be sure to hit subscribe and hit that bell for notifications so you know when I'm going live. We'll see you in the show.
Beautiful thing. Right now.
Rise and shine. It's a beautiful day. I am alright.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
This is the bridge to the white light.
Our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad.
It's crazy evil.
Good morning. We got Ken Silva with us today. We'll be talking about the pipe bomb Fed. I mean, we were talking before the show. We feel it's like it feels kind of bad when you Fed jacket people, but we're literally just reporting news today, so just the facts. Then we have the OKBOMB Informant, once again just reporting facts, and then we'll close out with Kirk, Killer, Patsy, and I'm sure we'll get some other stuff in there. We'll start off with I think a few stories that kind of got missed over the holiday break with our Icebreaker stuff, and I think after Ken goes, we'll cover some foreign policy for the foreign policy heads that like to catch my take. They just say it's basically the Tower Gang version of Dave DeCamp's show. But we have Ken with us today. Plenty to talk about. Ken, how has your Christmas been? It's been a wild couple weeks. Just so much shit going on. Really is just flooding the field. So that by the time then things get back to normal, it feels like they forgot about a million crazy conspiracies. It's like they're dropping everything on us all at once.
Yeah, there's been some interesting updates, although I have to say, just from the perspective as a news editor, it's been kind of slow. I mean, this is all kind of stuff that me, you, and our mutuals are really interested in, but the general public hasn't been following the pipe bomb case much. So we need some more assassinations or something to get traffic up at my website.
Yeah, careful what you wish for. I really do think it's just the holiday season. I think most people are checked out, spending time with family. Even myself, I'm checking back. But like even with this being like something I do, I even like make some money off it. Like it is still like spend time with family. You know, the family's home and stuff. So it is like that they really did pick the ideal time to drop all sorts of craziness on our asses. But to kind of start off with it, I guess I saw something you were reporting on this morning, which to that very effect. This is kind of our icebreaker type segment that we normally do in this show, but we'll cover a couple things that I think kind of got missed from the holiday season. This one's recent though. You just dropped. This is over at Headline USA. For those who aren't aware, by the way, I guess I almost have to back up because things are getting so memory hold. They just recently, like a few days ago, were like, just kidding, we have like 1 million Epstein files. And now they're doing, just kidding, now we have 5 million Epstein files. So I don't know if there's anything substantive, any thoughts you have on that. I mean, I don't know. You've probably looked through enough. I mean, not necessarily that you're a lawyer or anything, but you've looked through legal files and stuff. I mean, this seems insane to me that's that many documents. I don't know how many documents are typically embroiled in a single court case or, so it kind of makes me wonder, holy shit. What the hell? But I don't know. Any thoughts on all that? I mean, are they getting ridiculous? I mean, obviously with the Epstein files, we saw some stuff that's like, why is this even included in what you're considering the files? But I guess if it's, a 302 or an they're going to track everything. So there is a lot of ridiculous stuff, which we'll actually probably talk about today. But I don't know, any thoughts on it? Is it just because they're getting super vague with what they consider to be a file or what's going on here?
Yeah, it's hard to know really what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, this is kind of like, the OKC case where they're about to put Timothy McVeigh to death, and then they find like a trove of 50,000 documents a month before he was scheduled to get the needle, and that kind of delayed everything. Here, yeah, they say they have another 5 million files they need to review before they could release. Who knows what's in there? They did produce 8 million documents about January 6th just in discovery. So that's just to give people kind of a perspective that, January 6th was the FBI's largest investigation in the Bureau's history. And so this is almost getting there, although, obviously this stuff wasn't actually produced in discovery. So, yeah, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see what's in it. I guess I could recap the history since I'm looking at the picture of that those influencers holding up the binders. I mean, initially Pam Bondi said the files were sitting on her desk, and then she said they were at the New York field office, and she ordered them to provide them. And I guess there were some questions about whether the FBI was being fully cooperative. The FBI, the agents doing the redactions have been paid over $1 million in overtime just on this one FOIA or one project alone. So it's been quite costly, and they're probably racking up exponentially more than that, because I think those numbers were current as of March.
All right, let's move on to another thing you covered that I did think probably got a little bit lost in the sauce. Apparently there was new information dropped in the Iran plot, which a lot of people don't realize. This is how they vaguely tie the whole Iranian, assassination node into it, is kind of what this vague other thing that supposedly happened. But I guess, I think we covered this in the past, that the ins and outs of this. I mean, I've forgotten more about this than I've known about it. But it seems like now, now we're seeing that perhaps, or not even perhaps, they've straight up admitted the FBI was tracking this guy well before he even came into the States, well before when they said they were. So it's looking a whole lot more suspicious. I don't know, if you're one who's not willing to just kind of swallow the government narrative unthinkingly, it kind of makes you wonder what's going on here.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing this up, because this is actually, I think this is the most interesting case going on right now. This is Asif Merchant, the guy who was arrested on July 12th, 2024, the day before, Trump was shot in the ear at his rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. And so when the case was announced, a lot of people a lot of conspiracy theories were sparked as, were these two events related? And, if we're going to get tinfoil hatty, if anything, I think this case was kind of fabricated by the FBI to muddy the waters about July 13th and what really happened there. Possibly if the assassination was successful, maybe they would have tied the two cases and used it as a pretext for war. And ever since this case was announced, you've had guys like Ted Cruz go on Tucker Carlson's show and said the FBI paid hitman to take out Trump. Even Rabbi Shmuley cited this case on Alex Jones's show a couple months ago. And it turns out that the hitmen were undercover FBI agents. The DOJ's official story was that this guy entered the country and pitched an assassination plot to an acquaintance, who then approached the FBI and became an informant, and then they set up a sting operation on him. But now we know, according to these new filings, that he was being monitored. They're doing FISA surveillance on him before he even entered the country in March. And then we also have information that the guy, the FBI informant, was already an informant before he pitched his plot. So it really seems like a Whitmer case on steroids. And I've been saying on steroids because a lot of this case is classified, where the Whitmer case, we pretty much have all the documents about what happened. Here, it's really shady. We don't know the full extent of it, but it looks really, really bad. And I guess the last thing I'll say is that the reporter John Solomon has a source who told him that he was let into the country on some significant benefit parole program, which is usually what they do to try to either flip somebody or for a sting operation. And Solomon's source specifically said this was like a Fast and Furious type operation where they're letting these like potential terrorists in to America just to like track them and see where they go and what connections they make. It's crazy.
Makes you think about that DC shooting when we found out that guy was like part of the 0 units in Afghanistan. So I mean, I don't know exactly the background. This Asif guy seems like more of a poor schmuck than like some sort of, literally a stay behind unit type of guy. But to kind of tie these all together, I don't know if we've gotten a chance to talk about this, but I know you've got a burning affinity for Bongino. He's stepping down. I guess he's going to be bouncing here in January. This is a clip I've been sitting on for a while that I figured, and I almost took it out of my bookmarks, and I was like, oh, Ken's coming on the show. This will be fun to make fun of Bongino. And I figured I don't know. I try to stay away from the influencer stuff, but every now and then it ties into actual substantive stuff. So I kind of was hesitant to pop in this because it's got Timmy Pool in there, and I'd end up making fun of him. But here's Timmy P. I don't know. I guess coming. I haven't watched this clip yet, so we'll watch it together for the first time. Who knows? Maybe he's not being a complete and utter LOL Cal here. But I guess he's saying Bongino didn't do nothing. So I'd like to get your take after we watch it.
Dan Bongino. I'm a huge fan. I have been a huge fan for a while. You are a gentleman and a scholar and a legend. And I know you tried your best, and I know you're doing the right thing, and I believe in you. It is crazy to me that people think this guy didn't do everything he could do. Because the question is, who else? And I believe in Cash as well. People have been ragging on him about the jet and all that stuff, and I'm like, I'm not playing this game, okay? I know Cash Patel. Nobody's got the God hand. Nobody's going to go in and just turn a page on these corrupt institutions overnight. But the idea that these men are not trying to do the best they can is laughably absurd. All you got to do is listen to Cash Patel talk about what James Comey did, and you can hear it in his voice, his passion for weeding out the corruption. Does it mean you can get through? No, but we start somewhere.
Oh my God, it was so much worse than I thought it'd
be. Yeah, he's glazing there.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll try to keep it together, but it's so ridiculous. Okay, anyways, what are your thoughts, Ken?
Bongino's 8-month stint as deputy director. I mean, I get the impression from the outside looking in that him and Cash are actually Trump loyalists, but they kind of just got ran by their underlings, like totally taken advantage of and misled at every turn. I mean, the first instance of this is where Bongino goes on Fox News, him and Cash. I think Cash said this on Rogan, and they said, we've got footage inside Epstein's prison that proves that he definitely killed himself. And right away, I already have read the Inspector General's report on Epstein's suicide, and they've got a really cool diagram that shows which cameras were working, which cameras weren't. And if you just read this report, you'd see that no cameras were showing Epstein's cell. So nothing conclusive could have been proven by the footage that they were touting. And of course, when it comes out, it was even worse than what I predicted, that they didn't show the cell. There was also like a missing minute. There was some of it that was thought to have been doctored. I don't know if it was nefarious or if it was just them transferring it from like a reel to like digital format. But like they got made look really stupid with the whole suicide case. And then, things didn't really get better from there, where they're insisting that there is no client list, which, I mean, the client list is kind of a euphemism, but they're saying it wasn't, it was just Epstein and Maxwell. There wasn't anything bigger. He didn't have any clients. Dan Bongino promised Helen Comparatori, the widow of the guy who was killed at the Butler rally. She goes on a show and says, I talked to Dan and he promised me that they're going to release more documents about the Butler shooting in the coming weeks. And then that never happened. Bongino defended the FBI's conduct in that case about hosing down the roof the very next day, releasing the body for cremation. So it pretty much at every turn, he just looked worse and worse. And it just seems to me that he was getting fed intel and not even vetting it. And it's kind of like the whole capstone of his tenure is this pipe bomb arrest, which also made him look a fool because he had been saying as a podcaster that this is an inside job. It was definitely a Fed who placed these pipe bombs, which I actually believe is true. But then they arrest some black autistic guy in Virginia that has no connection to the feds. And Bongino is the one saying that it's definitely him. And this is like my crowning achievement. And when he's asked about, well, why'd you change, why do you say it's not an inside job now? And he's like, oh, well, I was just a podcaster. I'm paid to give my opinion as a podcaster. And this is me speaking in capacity as a deputy director of, the federal secret police. But of course, saying it is an inside job isn't like really an opinion. That's like an analysis based off of his assessment of the facts. Like an opinion would be, should we have anarchy or minarchy? Should we have higher taxes or lower taxes? Like a normative opinion. This is an assessment of reality. So he's not even speaking the truth there. And now I guess he's going to come back to the podcast circuit. And I think he's burned a lot of bridges. I think he's going to be kind of clowned on from all circles. I don't think he has as many allies left. Although I guess Tim Pool is still like a big fan.
Which I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, it seems whatever. Who am I? I mean, comparatively speaking, but it looks like their number's been dwindling, and every single time I notice that, it always seems there's some other stunt that's coming out to. I don't know. Maybe it's all organic. I don't know. It just seems like a floundering establishment over there. But hey, he really means it. You can hear it in his voice. He sounds like you can just tell that you can hear the emotion. He really delivers the lines just so good, But all right, you talked about the pipe bomb. Let's just go ahead and get into it instead of burying the lead. We're going full Fed jacket today, and I feel like there needs to be another word because I feel like Fed jacket implies that like you're kind of like implying like kind of what I did to Daryl Cooper. I'll be honest, that was Fed jacketing. I completely gave an argument for it. I think he's either retarded or he's that. I mean, I know you take your pick, but that is I don't have a solid. We're looking at some solid shit now. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you couldn't say literal Fed, but I don't know. If you're a thinking, breathing human being, I don't know what to make of this. I mean, you guys tell me in the chat, but here's Steve Baker in his own words with Kyle Seraphin and a couple other glowies. I mean, if you guys can't see, be sure to turn down the contrast with all the glowing. But let's just dive right in. It's a little bit long. It's on the longer side, guys, but it's worth it.
It's worth it, yeah.
Holy shit.
Was the chairman of the Communist Party and sat at the head of the Politburo there. That's how far.
Actually, before we do that, I do want to remind you, I guess I shouldn't assume everyone knows who Steve Baker is. He works over at the Blaze. He was the one responsible for the J6 pipe bomb story that kind of brought it back to prominence. We covered this extensively over here. He kind of beclowned himself multiple times, ended up having to retract. It's a whole to-do. We won't probably go into all of that, although I'm sure we'll make tons of reference to it. But just to remind you guys who this is, but let's go and play it.
Back that was.
I just want people to digest what you just said. You just said that put me behind the Iron Curtain, like you just kind of casually threw that out there. Like most people don't say that. That might be the crowning achievement or the sort of the wildest thing that some people have done in their entire life. And that was sort of like the entry point into this weird life that you've lived. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened because it was this thing that I parachuted into when I was 19 years old. I had no idea that 2 weeks later I would be in a recording studio in San Francisco doing the demo for what would become the theme song for the 1980 Summer Moscow Olympics. And I had, I just literally was blindsided by this whole experience. And then a year after that, after the embargo from the West was lifted, because Jimmy Carter and all the other Western countries boycotted the Moscow Games in 1980. And then a year later in 81, this band was doing an official tour in the Soviet Union. I played on Soviet television and, everything began from there.
Yeah. And when you said subversive work, do you want to dig into that a little bit and tell the lads, not everybody, like I said, we got a newish audience, and subversive work behind the Iron Curtain may sound a little flippant for what was going on. You want to kind of describe it a little bit?
Yeah, this organization was basically it was a group that did work not only in behind Iron Curtain countries, but other disadvantaged parts of the world, China, South Africa, places like that. And there was 4 bands on the road at all times. Two of the bands were always touring in North America, basically raising money for the 2 bands that were working overseas. And then when we would then switch continents, so we were at 9 months at a time, then we would jump continents alternate continents with each other. And so our tour put us in Europe and put us on the road there for several months. And then our visas were approved to go into the Soviet Union. And essentially our job was at that time to our cover. It was our cover was to be a band. And we were a real band. And we would show up on the border with our tour bus, go through all of the searches and, bend over, rubber glove treatment and everything that they had to put us through to get us into the countries. And then once we were in, we had literally hidden inside of our equipment. We had tape duplicating equipment. We had recording studio equipment for these underground dissidents. We had back then we had printing press parts and plates for these dissidents as well. We don't need those printing press parts anymore, but that's what we were carrying over back in 80, 81 and before and after. And so it was actually a very, very interesting group. And we worked directly with some very powerful organizations. For instance, during the Reagan administration, we were working with believe it or not, the Secretary of Interior, James Watts. The Interior, Department of Interior, had black ops money as well. And that was used to fund these types of subversive or operations. And that's essentially what we were doing, is we were supporting the underground dissident movement, Christian dissidents inside the Soviet Union. And then I took that another step further and eventually started going over there by myself as well and doing essentially the same thing. And my cover was, as a musician, I would go in, I would have my my trumpet gig bag over my shoulder, my duffel bag with my clothes and over the other shoulder, and I would cross.
All right, Ken, what the fuck?
Yeah, there you have it. The leading so-called journalist on the January 6th Fedsurrection is an admitted intelligence asset who was working on covert influence operations. I mean, it's straight from the horse's mouth, unless he's totally full of shit, which when it comes to this, I actually believe him. It sounds pretty spot on to me, because I've always had questions about Baker. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about him, but just a little bit of backstory that I've learned just basically observing him is that he was just a blogger. He ran something called like the Pragmatic Constitutionalist. And then he went into the Capitol on January 6th. And he later claimed that he acted as a journalist. But if you read the criminal complaint at him, he's recording, but he's like looking out the windows saying, look out the window, bitches, look what's coming. Later that night, he interviews and he says, the only thing I regret is that I didn't steal their computers, because God knows what I could have found on their computers if I'd done that. But by the time I got into Pelosi's office, unfortunately, there was some damage done. I'm not saying he should have been arrested for this, but I'm just saying he's not acting as a journalist when he went into the Capitol. So after that, he gets arrested a couple years later, and all of a sudden you've got like senators writing letters saying like, how dare you arrest a journalist? And Glenn Beck says, oh, this is such an outrage, such an attack on the free press that I'm going to give this guy a full-time job. And then he kind of gets boosted as
job for Steve Horn, though.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at other, like Stephen Horn's like a legitimate journalist who was like on the streets during the summer of 2020, getting rubber bullets shot at him and stuff like that, doing real journalism. And he wasn't acting in the manner that Baker was when he entered the Capitol. He really was just documenting things. But so, yeah, Baker gets this full-time job at the Blaze, and now he's being presented as the authoritative truth teller. He says, January 6th is the greatest scandal of all time, when on January 6th, he's on camera saying, I 100% proved what happened. This is great. So it's just such a grotesque psyop. The irony is just really, really thick here.
I'm trying to even understand. I'm trying to find a way to understand this last 4 minutes, that clip, and of it not being what you said. I mean, did he reference a specific intelligence group, or because he didn't say who, but he did say large I mean, I struggle to find a way to understand that without being like, what the hell? I mean, what do you say?
He said the Department of Interior had a black budget.
Okay,
yeah,
never mind.
he said the Secretary James Watts, which I actually looked up James Watts. Ironically, at the same time that he's sending Baker into the Soviet Union, he banned the Beach Boys from performing the Independence Day concert at the National Mall in D.C. So that's, it's neither here nor there, just a little kind of fun fact about who was funding Baker at the times. But yeah, Department of Interior running covert operations on foreign countries is kind of weird. Maybe they had the black budget to do it, but it seems pretty connected to what the CIA was doing to me.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I mean, I don't know if you've dug enough into him. Does he said anything that you know of about his religion? This might be for the chat as well. If you guys know or in the comments, I'd be curious what his religious denomination is too, because it was a religious cover. So it's like, I don't know. That's what I was thinking at first. Like maybe he was like a Mormon, because you hear these weird. And I know even growing up in the church, I remember there being like missionary, like, or I don't know if I remember any like actually like coming out of our church or whatever, but I remember hearing tell of like, always these brave missionaries would go over to China and be like, pretend to be something else or whatever. So it's like, there is kind of a history of, us. And obviously, maybe there's a positive way to spin it. They're like, oh, we're trying to spread the word of Christ. But then I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of times intelligence agencies get a mix too and be like, well, you love your country, don't you? Wouldn't it be, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? So I don't know. I'd be curious if anyone knows. I mean, I don't know if you know. I'd be because it is a religious cover. So I think that's substantive at least.
Yeah, I don't know, but it would certainly make sense if he was Mormon, since he got hired by Glenn Beck, who's, mega Mormon.
That's true.
So yeah, the only other thing I wanted to mention about Baker is after January 6th, he fronted like he was going to fight the charges. He's got all these cringe tweets like, I'm ready, like, pour me out on the altar. I'm the cup of liberty, like really weird shit. And then Trump wins the 2024 election, Baker's trial's in a few weeks, and he pleads guilty. And it's really weird because Trump had already won. So, the notion that he was going to prison was pretty dubious. But I think he wanted to avoid the trial because all this evidence would have been trotted out that he wasn't acting as a real journalist. And it just actually, I know a lot of January 6ers really were upset at his kind of posturing and then caving at the last second. And again, Stephen Horn didn't cave. He's like, well, I can't plead guilty to something I didn't do. Not the same story with Baker.
Yeah. I guess we should probably, before we get into the pipe bomb story, we should probably give like a quick recap of his reporting. Because, I mean, I know his initial reporting was that he was kind of basically straight up saying that one short-haired girl, I can't remember her name, the Capitol Police, which I know there was a lot of stuff floated about. You know how this, especially being in a more conspiratorial realm, how things move about. I never verified a lot of the different facts. I know supposedly people were saying she was like now supposedly CIA or this or that, which I don't know. I mean, whether that's true or not, that doesn't necessarily mean one thing or the other. But I don't know if you want to give a quick recap of his reporting in relation to that, and then then from there I think we'll probably shift over to the current as it stands. But because it does seem like my takeaway from all this whole like Norbit looking dude kind of seems like a real kind of a saving grace for Baker at like kind of the right moment. Like here's this obvious patsy as Bongino is going out the door, where it's like whatever, put it on this fucking idiot. And now Baker gets to recoup his reputation. So I don't know if you want to give like a recap of his coverage of it, and then I guess that'll kind of bring us to where we are now.
Yeah, well, Baker's the big bombshell story dropped in early November, and he accused, as you said, a former Capitol Police officer named like Shawnee Kirkenoff, who is with the CIA. She's a security guard at the campus. I think he initially said that she was working on the director's detail when that's not true. She's just like manning the front gate. But it was an interesting story. It was largely based off of gait recognition analysis. He compared how the pipe bomber walked on surveillance footage to how Shawnee was walking on January 6th. And I guess they got some footage of her from her college soccer days, said it was a 95% match. And then there was the fact that Kyle Seraphin actually conducted surveillance on Shawnee's neighbor, who was suspected to be involved in the pipe bombing. So those two things are very compelling, and I think they might have been onto something, but they didn't have smoking gun evidence. They didn't have any kind of proof, and the story quickly collapsed. They got key details wrong, such as like Shawnee not being on the director's detail. She's only a security guard. And eventually they had to retract the entire story. I think the FBI cleared Shawnee as a suspect. They said she had video on the night of January 5th of her like playing with her dogs. So it might sound dubious, and they might have actually been onto something, but because they set such a shitty story, such shitty journalism, they set a big straw man to be knocked down. And now that's kind of been debunked. I guess we're waiting for lawsuits to fly. And then the FBI arrests this new guy a couple weeks later.
One thing I guess now I have you here, I was just thinking about it because this is one thing that's always kind of bugged me, and I've always meant to go dig into it a little bit. Kyle actually came on my show forever ago, years ago. And as you mentioned, he did, I guess do some, I don't know if you say reporting or attested to the fact that he was investigating the neighbor of the Kirkoff chick or whatever her name is. I can never remember it. So he came on my show, and it was all tied up in this like government travel card or whatever the hell, or not a government travel card, but like something to do for the train or whatever. I forget the specifics of it. In retrospect, he was a long time ago. He said it on my show, and then it always struck out to me that it wasn't until like almost well over a year later of him saying it on my show that Daily Wire picked it up, and kind of then it actually was like everybody was like, "Holy shit!" Even though it had actually been reported on my show. Well, I guess we say reported, but I guess reported, yeah, on my show like well over a year before. But looking back at it, I'm like, especially where we are now, you're like, to some degree, it is. I get, Kyle is a primary source here, so like that does give it like he is. It makes sense. He would have been one of the people investigating. I believe he was. Totally tracks. But I've always wondered: is there any corroborating info on that whatsoever that's ever been released? Like, or is that totally just a trust me, bro, from Kyle Seraphin? Which he is a primary source, to be clear. So that is like, it does have some level of credibility, but if he's already kind of shown him to be a shitty source, which is kind of like with the whole Mitch Snow thing, which we might get into Candace later, it is kind of like if it's holed up on a trust me, bro, and there isn't corroborating information, we're on quicksand.
Yeah, his story, I would say, is like 90% true, and it has been confirmed. The House Republicans put out a report on January 6th. It was about a year ago now, that talks about, they got a bunch of FBI records. The FBI talks about tracking one person who used the Metro card. The card belonged to an Air Force veteran, and then they tracked it to this person who happened to be Shawnee's neighbor, which is a hell of a coincidence. Where Kyle either was lying or just incorrect, though, is that he always gave people the impression, or he downright stated that the person that they were tracking was the pipe bomber, the pipe bomb suspect. I always was under the impression, because that's what he said, is like the guy on surveillance footage walking around with the bombs and placing them by the DNC was the one that they tracked using the Metro card and taking the train back to Virginia, when in fact the reality is that the person that he was conducting surveillance on was taking pictures, like for some reason he was taking pictures on the areas where the pipe bombs were eventually placed earlier on January 5th, like when it was still light outside. And yes, the FBI did find that suspicious, so they tracked him. He's the guy that used the Metro card. So it wasn't the actual pipe bomber that Kyle was conducting surveillance on. So it's still a hell of a coincidence that he was surveilling Shawnee's neighbor, but Shawnee's neighbor wasn't the pipe bomb suspect. It was just some guy who was taking pictures, and then it turned out that he was out of town. He was using the Metro card of the person who actually lives next to Shawnee. And so it's like, I guess, 3 degrees removed. It was somebody staying at Shawnee's neighbors was the person that Kyle was surveilling.
All right, I guess let's get into where things sit now. They have a new guy, which is somehow built up on a case built up on what, like receipts or something. But it looks like one of your guys went down there. Oops, my bad. James Rogers from, I guess it seems like he's doing work for you now. But I guess he went over and reported on this. So I don't know, what kind of takeaways do we have from the most recent stuff going on with it? I mean, it kind of looks like a Patsy, all vibes, but I haven't really dug into it. I mean, I don't know. I'm also I'm kind of almost immediately my bias is to distrust the government. So pretty much everybody's a Patsy until proven otherwise for me. So yeah, is there anything to this? What's the most recent going on with this, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, this one, it really does look like a Patsy, and not just because, we're operating on the basis that you're innocent until proven guilty. It just, like, the case looks really dubious. Brian Cole is the guy's name. He was arrested I think earlier this month, and it was really dubious because they're basing their case off of like his phone pinging off of cell phone towers, and then they arrest him and interview him without an attorney present for over 2 hours, and he finally confesses. And so that's like their entire case is based off that. They didn't get an indictment before they raided his house and arrested him. I guess they thought they'd find more evidence, but that comes to the hearing this week, is that Cole's lawyers wanted to have a preliminary hearing yesterday, which would have been the government has to present all its evidence, and then the judge will decide whether to proceed with criminal charges or not. But the DOJ did a dirty tactic. They went to a lower court, like the local court in DC, and got an indictment from there, and then tried to present that in federal court. And now there's arguments over whether they're going to accept that indictment. And of course, the lawyers for Cole don't want that. They want to have an actual preliminary hearing where they could kind of cross-examine the FBI's evidence, and then there would be a possibility that he'd be let free. So the judge hasn't actually decided on these things, but the case could collapse before it even proceeds to trial. And again, like, he did confess, but the fact that they didn't secure an indictment before they arrested him shows how weak the case is, because normally they would do that and then have him in custody. But I think they were kind of hoping like a Hail Mary, like hopefully we'll find evidence on his phone or coerce a confession, which it seems like they did. But it's looking really tenuous. And to Steve Baker and the Blaze's credit, they did a story a couple days ago where it's kind of like showing the pipe bomber's movement on the surveillance footage with what the FBI says in his complaint, and his movements don't really match. Like, at one point, the Blaze shows that his car is seen on surveillance footage when he's supposed to be, a half a mile away planting a device. So it looks really bad for government.
Yeah, and you do put a post here where I saw there you're kind of pointing out that, hey, there's cameras everywhere too. So once again, not looking great for the government. So it's like they should know. They probably do know. And so, I don't know. I got to be real. It looks more like some sort of burn plan here. I got to be real. I don't know exactly. I'm not saying everything's going entirely according to plan and everything's been working out well. But it looks like some sort of burn plan. I don't know exactly how that played out. Maybe this is entirely organic, but that's just the schizophrenic in me. I see this and go, oh, they probably have known this for a long time, and they got to weasel their way out one way or another. All right, I guess let's move on over to the OKBOMB stuff instead of it's not really something I'm necessarily looking forward to. A lot of people may not realize the Richard Booth problem has kind of reached a head again, seemingly. I think you said it best here. This is Richard Booth right now. Here we go.
I am a federal informant. Because I think that's pretty funny, you see.
All right, so all jokes aside, yes, he is literally a federal informant now. I mean, he put out a Substack. I don't know how deep. This is such a deep hole of this and this crazy thing and that crazy thing. When it comes to Richard Booth, I've covered, for those who really care to get that deep into it, I mean, I guess I know I'm kind of being a little bit acting like it is silliness, and it sort of is, but there is substantive things in here. I mean, Richard did spend he was the one I did the entire Oklahoma City bombing playlist with, you included. He was a wealth of knowledge. Now, I mean, I did end up reading a lot of the books and a lot of the same thing he has, so I don't really feel like I've been misled by him or anything, but he is like, there's a wealth of information. People do see, like, the evaluate the validity of sources of information, and if people aren't, not everyone's going to go read all the books that Richard did, and so, I mean, it is substantive, I think, covering when someone has a crazy breakdown, and some of the insane things they're doing have gone to such a level that it's like, I don't really, I mean, maybe, yeah, he's either, at the very least, it's people should be aware of the detriment that he's currently being. The things he's saying, I don't think he has too much of a sway of people who believe him, but I still occasionally see people who do, but I guess it's just a function of people not being aware of what's going on. I don't even really, I guess, Ken, is there any way you want to go into this? I don't really know. I will say, I meant to say a second ago, go check out if you really want to, and I'm not saying this to be like condescending, if you really are like, oh shit, what is going on here if we don't do a good job. I literally did a stream called I'm So Not a Raper. I don't know when it was, probably months ago. I know a ridiculous name. It's totally playing off the joke from Step Brothers. I literally did the meme of like them with their heads hurt, like I'm so not a raper, because throughout all the craziness, when he was having his, I guess, break from reality or whatever, he literally accused me of divulging a rape to him at some point, which I didn't, but I mean, what can I say to that other than I'm so not a raper? Ken, I don't know, any thoughts about I guess we can kind of lay out in a second the actual legitimate shenanigans, the recent shenanigans, but there's like well over an hour and a half for those who want to catch all the specifics. And there was more after that too, but that was just the stuff that I felt like the time was worthwhile responding to. And I haven't really responded to any of his shenanigans until recently, where he's kind of taken up a whole notch where people should at least be aware of what's going on.
Sure, and actually my fallout with Richard came around the same time as yours, and it is pretty sad because I did consider him an actual friend, like as much as a friend as you could be with just some guy on the internet who you've never met in real life. But yeah, my fallout started when I had interviewed Roger Charles, who was a legend investigator of Oklahoma City bombings, like kind of got a lot of the records that we use for our research today. I did the last interview with him in February 2022, and then he wound up tragically passing away a few weeks later. And so this was, I think, like a year ago, ahead of the anniversary, we decided to publish my full interview with Roger, like his last interview he ever gave before he passed away. And I had my friend and producer, the number 6 on Twitter. He redacted one section where Roger basically kind of talks shit about another researcher named Cheryl Seymour, who big parapolitics buffs will recognize that name because she wrote a book on the octopus, and a lot of her research was underpinning that recent Netflix documentary about the octopus scandal. So Roger kind of was talking a little shit about her. I won't go into details. It's just, kind of petty grievances between them. But I took that out. But at the time, I trusted Richard, and he had a full copy. And because Cheryl Seymour, like, this is also stupid, because Seymour's friend was with Wendy Painting, he published the part where Roger's talking shit to be like, see, Roger didn't like her. And I said, Richard, like, you don't have permission to do that. This is really fucked up. And he pointed to something where I accidentally outed him as basically when he was working on the HBO documentary, he gave me some info about how they were questioning an FBI agent named Danny Colson, who was reportedly in Oklahoma City the night before the attack. And I used that info, and I sent some really aggressive texts to Danny, pretty much accusing him and saying I'm running a story for the Epic Times. And Danny, eventually, he has his lawyers write to the Epic Times saying I'm threatening him with these baseless allegations. And I got fired from that job as a result. but he also complained to HBO about Richard. And so even though I didn't say I got the information from Richard, Danny figured it out. And at the time, I apologized to Richard, and it was supposedly water under the bridge. But then 3 years later, when I complained about him publishing purposely over my objections something that Roger said, he throws that back in my face. And it's like, we actually put that aside, and we were still cool for another couple months. But then when he started talking shit about Wendy, like saying really nasty things about her, I think you said, Richard, you should take this down. And I did too. And that's when we finally had a real falling out. And he publicly threatened to kick my ass on Twitter. He wanted to fight me and all this. And then again, he apologized. And we were cool for maybe another month. But then the really breaking point came when on the anniversary of Kenneth Trenadu's death, he deleted the website and rerouted it to the FBI. And after that, I told Richard, you're dead to me. Like, I'll never speak to you again. And we never have. So and I think that basically his argument. And then after that, he threatened to leak more information and try to get me in trouble with the Epic Times over the whole Danny Coulson thing and all this other stuff that he says would have been covered by my non-disclosure agreement, even though it turns out that that's not the case. So that was like my little backstory with Richard. But the reason we're talking about this now isn't just over petty grievances with another OKC researcher. There's a real public interest here because he is recently saying that he's going to inform on Jesse Trenadu to the Justice Department, essentially. And we can get into that.
Yeah, I guess we can just go ahead and read his post, actually. No reason why not. Radix here posted it. She said more disturbing behavior from Richard Booth, suffering from spiritual sickness. I mean, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just hope he stops. But here he is disbarring Jesse Trenadu. He says, as part of Jesse Trenadu's legal battle, he shared sealed information with Wendy Painting, information that was sealed by a judge, which she then put into Word and distributed to people on the internet. I've been in contact with Justin Peed, the special master in the investigation, to let him know about this. I have also sent a courtesy email to the FBI's chief counsel to let them know of Jesse and Wendy's felonies relative to this. I've let both know I will do anything required of me to fuck Jesse Trenadu and explain that as a vulnerable adult with a disability, Mr. Trenadu abused me, which I find ridiculous. He did refer to him having autism many times. There's always a joke. He never acted like it was like some ooh boo hoo pours me. But anyways, because Mr. Trenadu abused me and because he has not apologized, I harbor deep resentment and thus will do anything within my power to hurt him. I'm going to ensure that his case is thrown out, and I'm going to write to the judge in the case today. I'm also going to write to the Utah Bar Association to seek to have him disbarred. Which, I mean, all I'm saying here is Fed confirmed. Like, okay, there's just a question of when did he become a Fed? So, I mean, obviously the most colloquial of versions of Fed, just informant, but that's good enough for me. I mean, maybe you could give me an out, like, of some specific example where someone is contacting the Feds to give them information. We'd be like, okay, I won't consider you a Fed here. But this is the most classic example of you are a fucking Fed. Like, this is, like, maybe not literally working for the agency, but you were informing on them for not real, like, even if we are to assume that he's committed felonies, they're made up government laws. These aren't actual natural law, any sort of no one's being hurt. This is just in the endeavor of trying to get justice. They are perhaps breaking some of the government's rules, which I think we'll get into that. I don't even think that's actually true. But either way, this is the most classic example of you are a fucking Fed. So I don't know. What are your thoughts, Ken? Because yeah, I mean, this is literally him telling everyone, "I'm informing to the feds." Like I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, where to begin? Well, I think we should probably add that he threatened to kill Wendy Painting a few months ago.
Yes, I forgot about that.
I don't know if
I never covered that because it was up in the air and we didn't really want to draw attention to it because it's like, he's committing an open crime, like, and it's like we're kind of like, if anything, hoping that because he's literally putting out a beacon to the feds, and I'm like, I'm hoping that the feds don't reach out to him to compromise. So we were trying not to make a big deal out of it, but here we are. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's legitimate to ask whether he flipped, whether they paid him a visit at the time and flipped him, or if he was a Fed even earlier. But I guess this particular crash out stems from, it's actually kind of humorous, and I got permission from Jesse to talk about this just before I jumped on the show. He reached out to Jesse under an anonymous email sent. The email was like triplehelix@gmail.com or something like that. And he claimed to be a hacker in the Czech Republic. And he says, "Dear Mr. Trenadu," this is just a couple days ago, "I have followed your important work for the past 25 years with great interest and respect. Recently, I came across your series featuring you on Eric Hunley's program." He pretty much fed Jackets Eric Hunley. He says Eric Hunley has conducted interviews with approximately 7 different FBI agents on his show. He appears to maintain very cordial relations with the FBI. I would kindly suggest that you give this some careful consideration. You could verify this by visiting his YouTube channel. And then he talks shit about Margaret Roberts, who is an author who came out with a book about Trenadu's story earlier this year. She says, "I also observed that Margaret Roberts, the author of the book, seems to have close ties to several FBI agents." He goes into that a little. And I'm trying to get the part where he touts Richard Booth. Oh yeah, he says
it's like it's real quick. That is like, by the way, he's had a bajillion alts. That's the best way to discover a Richard Booth alt. You'll be the one guy sucking off Richard Booth so hard. But go on.
It says, "My understanding is that Richard Booth was involved in fact-checking Blowback, and I think he probably did a pretty good job because the book is actually good. But when you listen to her being interviewed, you can tell she doesn't even know the material that is in the book. Her interviews are, to put it bluntly, terrible." Now, I imagine that none of these things escape Richard Booth's attention if I have seen them, and most assuredly they have not escaped the attention of other people who make it their business to study this subject. With all due respect, sir, I fear that you may be the victim here, because these people are not the friends that you think they are if you examine how closely they consort with the FBI. I am located in the Czech Republic, and I prefer not to use my real name, so you may call me Triple Helix, or simply 3XH, as my other hacker friends call me. I am a computer hacker by trade. Let's see, does he mention so he finishes it, but what I did notice is in your interviews with Eric Hunley, you are not afraid to say quite clearly that John Doe 2 was a Fed. However, Margaret Roberts is terrified and won't even go into that. Then he talks more shit about Margaret Roberts. So he sends this, and Jesse forwarded to me at the time, and we're like, "Bah, that's obviously fucking Richard." And so Jesse responds a day later saying, "Thank you very much for this email. I was truly not aware of most of the information you sent me. You have certainly given me much to consider. Meanwhile, as for Dick Booth, I have no respect for the man, and I am sure that if he was still alive, my dear friend Roger Charles, who Dick claims was his mentor, would feel the same way about him." So this is a little bit of speculation, but I'm sure that's what sent Richard spiraling. I think in his post he even says that I'm doing this because somebody forwarded me an email showing that Jesse is still talking shit about me. But no, this is the triple helix is the crux of this.
Meanwhile, he's the one doing shit like that. Like I can go ahead and tell you, I know him, and particularly another person is doing that about me, which, like, whatever. Like, I'm not making a thing of it. I don't fucking care. But yeah, this is the sort of shit he does. Man, there's something else in there. Oh yeah, this is public, so I don't really know. You didn't mention it. I guess part of what Richard's big issue is that he told him to kill himself, which, like, I'm going to go ahead and go with, yeah, fuck you. Like, I don't know. Like, for one, I think it was after the whole on his brother's birthday or whatever, the site thing. I believe that was right at that time when he said it. So
actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's a key point that I wanted to mention, that Richard's justification for deleting the Kenneth Trenadu website on Kenneth's birthday, the 30th anniversary of his death, is that, Jesse Trenadu told me to, and
because the other way around. Yeah,
I'm gonna do it if you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it. But in fact, Jesse was saying, delete the website and then kill yourself. So he's not very good at following instructions. He did the first thing, but he didn't follow through with
We're still
Jesse's
waiting, Richard.
second part of the instructions. And so obviously Jesse was like being a little facetious, like, if you delete the website, you should just kill yourself. And then Richard, he takes it literally for the former, but not the latter. So yeah, fuck you, Richard. I'm sure you're going to clap back against both me and Jose on your irrelevant little Substack. Do your worst.
By the way, I will go ahead. He was threatening you with fighting. He never said to me. I will tell him if he does want to come somewhere nearby, I will gladly meet up and beat the fuck out of you. I don't give a shit. But I'm not fucking flying to wherever the fuck you are to go fight because I'm an adult man with mortgage to pay. But if you want to get like a 3-mile radius, I'll come out and take a drive down the road and beat the fuck out of you.
Yeah, do it at Skankfest or something.
Yeah, we'll fucking do it. It'd be fun. I don't give a shit. All right,
yeah,
let's.
I was actually considering about like buying him plane tickets because like I don't want to show up to him and then he have like a gun. But if he were to fly to my area, I'll have an Uber pick him up from the airport. We'll go to an MMA gym, and yeah, I would be happy to do that. So yeah, let's follow up on that, Richard.
Yeah, I'd be willing to pay for the privilege. Like, I mean, like, obviously I'm not going to put myself out enough to like go, across the nation, but like, yeah, I might like chip in $30-$40 for a cab or whatever.
Man, I'll push his shit so far in that not even he would like it. And that's saying a lot because we know Richard's little kinks.
Yeah. Well, feds might too. But let's check in. Let's see Wendy respond to this. So I figured we should at least read her response she put on Twitter. Because I think she denies because he's seemingly playing hard and fast with the truth, which, I mean, you never know if he's just being stupid and doesn't actually know, or if, like, he's intentionally misrepresenting things, or maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Here's Wendy. He says, crazy that my notes were sourced from not sealed PatCon emails and other documents, and informal conversations not covered under the seal, which I was explicitly told by Roger that I could discuss in a research context but not publish. True to form, he's actually the one out there distributing and publishing what he claims is prohibited material, just like he did for days with actually restricted court testimony. Also crazy that I don't have nor have I ever been in the habit of distributing my notes widely or publicly for any reason other than in a research context. They were shared with him and only him in a research context, in good faith, months after they were written. More concerning than stupid notes, obviously, are these threats to destroy a man who has only ever worked tirelessly to learn about his brother's murder, whether or not the force of nature finds it legit or not. So that was her response, so she can kind of be like, yeah, that's retarded. So, I mean, I don't know, take that what you want, I guess. But, yeah, I don't think he's actually doing it. I don't know if there's anything else meaningful in all this, Richard Booth nonsense that I can think of. Oh, he did. Oh, now there's another thing. He did, supposedly posted. I don't know if you have any update on that. Is there anything new? He supposedly posted the login info for the Kenneth Threndu site, I think, right? Which he basically already nuked it once. So this kind of is becoming a bit of a tired game and just feels like elder abuse a little bit. So.
And he also said that he got a visit from an FBI agent named Agent McCann. I guess that was in response to an article that he said, like, adios, fellas. And I guess the FBI is worried that he's going to, follow Jesse Trinity's final instructions for him, which, never mind.
All right. I don't know if there's anything else really with Richard. I mean, I feel like it's worth mentioning this is going on. I guess let's, if you think of anything else worth responding to, I don't really know. I think we kind of handled it. I mean, he's out here he's literally working with the feds. Threatening to go after Jesse Trent. He's not even threatening. He is working with the feds. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, since I guess we're on the subject, and I'm not going to talk about this again, but I'll get it off my chest now that he is saying that Eric Hunley's YouTube series has published a bunch of misinformation, and then he does mention me and says, Ken's not lying, but he quote confuses everything. Well, Richard, you've been studying this case literally almost 10 years longer than me. You've been studying it since it happened. It's the only case you study it. I'm a reporter. I've got like 10 different projects going on. So if I confuse a couple dates or something, that's going to happen. And I just mentioned that he wrote an article about the January 6th pipe bombs. That's just, the whole premise is incorrect. He says, the pipe bomb, the timers were set at 0. And so this raises a whole number of questions. But if you actually knew anything about that case, Richard, you would know that the one found by the RNC had 20 minutes left on the timer, not 0. So the whole premise of your article is incorrect there. You're not as smart as you think.
Well, I will apologize for gassing him up so hard because that is like the always the go-to is like, I don't think you realize how good I am on podcasts. Like, okay, cool, man. Which, I mean, I get it if you were a podcaster, but like, I don't know. It's whatever. It is also ridiculous. A lot of this comes back to like, oh, this person's not even good at podcasts. They don't even do podcasts. They don't even know the information. You're like, yeah, you're literally like, your only thing has been that. And I've actually tried to get him on larger platform podcasts, and he would, for whatever reason, flaked out. Like for example, when I went on Dave Smith, he was supposed to come with me. Like he was supposed to come on, and he didn't. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, he did good. I mean, my series was great, but I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's just weird. I don't know. He does have good command of the information, but like also to your point, like for example, I'm a podcaster. I cover a million other topics. So it's like I can only get so good at one. Like I can only read so many Oklahoma City bombing books where I go, I need to read some other things so I can actually have a well-rounded bit of information. So, I mean, that's kind of like my go-to thing, but there's a million other things as well. But all right, let's just shift gears from Richard, but kind of still stay in Oklahoma City bombing territory. I kind of want to get some follow-up from you. This ties into the Epstein stuff. I wonder your thoughts. I dug into this recently. I've been a little bit disappointed, I guess, although, I don't know, should I really even be? It kind of seems expected. With this Epstein drops, a lot of people are being retarded with some of this shit. One of them was this specific one from this Dan Faree guy who apparently in this file, there's claims about Trump and Epstein raping a kid, essentially suiciding someone, which someone gave me shit about that. That really got under my skin. They're like, why'd you say suiciding, you homo? And you're like, why don't you say murder? And you're like, that's literally more context. Like but anyways, like I get it. You're like whatever. And then also the John Doe 2 claim, which conveniently gets left out in most accounts of it, but to be fair, it is the way this document's laid out. It is kind of like the second half kind of, it's kind of like, it's almost like a side thing too, because so like if you are someone covering this and trying to be like, oh my God, Epstein this or that, you'd be like, what do I give a shit about this John Doe 2 claim? Although if you're a smart person, you could be like, why the fuck is this dude also making John Doe 2 claims?
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know, any thoughts on this? I dug into it a little bit. I went over to his YouTube. I don't know if you've done any digging around. I tried to contact him. It looks like he's been like hiding comments. He's been unlisting things, unlisting videos, relisting. Looks like some shenanigans going on. And every now and then I poke over there to see what's going on. Same thing. I'll see like a negative response and it's gone. Like, so I don't know. I mean, I dug through his videos and who knows? You never know. Maybe this guy could be telling the truth, but I got kind of schizo boomer. Like, I don't know what's going on here. Have you dug into this anything more? And I guess kind of any general thoughts. Am I being too skeptical here? Am I being an asshole? Like, I kind of, it's like, I don't know if I want to believe, but it is like there was a woman, a 19-year-old girl that there was reported she got fucking shot in the face. So I don't know. Thoughts?
I am probably even more skeptical than you. I think it's totally a crazy person. I mean, He called the FBI in 2020 and just gave this information and they wrote it down in a report. And if you compare what he tells the FBI to some of his videos, there's a lot of contradictions. I mean, I think, so again, I didn't do a story on this. My memory is a little hazy, but I believe he says that he's driving a limo and Trump's in the back talking to somebody, he's saying Jeffrey, laughing about molesting a girl. And then this is like in 96. And then he eventually talks to somebody and realizes that the person Trump was talking about it was that person's daughter. And she got raped by Trump and Epstein, apparently. And then that's when a couple years later, maybe the suicide happens. And then he tells the FBI to this in 2020. But if you actually watch some
let me tell you about John Doe too.
And then the thing that makes it really incredible is that he says that he was at a restaurant with Hillary Clinton and Hillary Clinton's security guard. He got kicked out by Hillary, and then Hillary fired the security guard, and that security guard was John Doe too, and did the bombing like in revenge of that whole incident, which is just absurd on the face of it. So
It was John Nichols.
John Nichols, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which there is no. If you're thinking your immediate thought is, oh, that must be one of the Nichols brothers. There is no John Nichols.
Yeah. Well,
and also, there's like, I guess in parapolitical lore, there is a John Nichols and the whole Cabazon thing. But I looked into him; he would have been like 70, like over 70 at the time. So it doesn't really fit. But go on.
Yeah, if you want to steelman his case, you could say, oh, maybe his story about Epstein was totally true, and then the FBI tacked on this John Doe 2 stuff to make him seem crazy. And so that would be to give him total benefit of the doubt. But when you watch his videos, his story changes from what's in the FBI report. He talks about already knowing that this girl had been raped, and he's driving with Trump in the back, and Trump's talking about it, and he says he pulls over and he like brandishes his gun and thinks about killing Trump right then and there, but he has some epiphany from God and decides not to do it. And so that's totally different from the story in the FBI where he figures it out years later. The FBI report's actually much more plausible, but yeah, this just seems like total slop. It's really crazy that it's kind of huge. If you like look on liberal Reddit, like a lot of the turbo libs are taking this. This is like their smoking gun. Everybody's talking about this, and it shows you how the libs are just as retarded as like the QAnon people.
Yeah. And to be fair, I think Trump's probably a pedophile. So, but this is it. You gotta question everything. If it's confirming your bias and it sounds retarded, like maybe look into if it's retarded. Or I mean, even if it's not retarded, you should probably look into it. But this one's kind of a very low hanging fruit. I think this might be retarded. So the fact people are getting hoodwinked by it's a little bit. Okay, whatever, but hey, we've chimed in. I know maybe Richard will say something otherwise, and you guys can take that to the bank. But let's get into, I guess we're going to report on some Fed slop now, which I guess that's a new thing. If you say nary a negative word about Candace, I guess you support the Fed slop. I think the official narrative, I think you can flex and ping 30-06s off your neck, no problem. Because I don't completely buy into Egyptian planes and spooky military men telling you things, and we should totally trust them, bro. Which I don't know. Maybe we'll touch a little bit on Candace, but I do gotta give you credit for. I know we talked before the show. You said you've completely checked out of the Candace stuff. I poke in occasionally because it's kind of in my purview of things, and it's just gone. It's gone beyond crazy town. So it's and it's kind of it's unsettling seeing the people still on the train. You're like. It's retarded. Literally, the latest in the things is literally a military man gave her a trust me, bro. Everyone pointed out his crazy history of like domestic abuse and lying and habitual this and that, and you're like, but were you able to prove his story wrong? You're like, but that's all holds up on his credibility. Anyways, I guess you've been covering the latest in the Robinson stuff. The Kirk killer. What's the latest in this with the lawyers and such? What kind of how are things shaping up on the legal front?
Real quick on Candace. I mean, I checked out after she totally cucked to Erica Kirk. They had their in-person meeting, and then she went on her show and kind of said, oh, maybe Tyler Robinson really did do it. It was a good meeting. She like kind of really toned down, and then her audience started to turn her against her. And so I'm guessing, without having watched any of the Mitch Snow stuff, that's where that comes from, that she's bringing Mitch Snow on to try to regain and recapture what she had with her, stupid grift. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. But we do have some movement on the actual case against Tyler Robinson, the accused gunman. The unsealed. There had been like a secret hearing about whether he should be allowed to wear street clothes and be unshackled during his court proceeding. I guess the government has security concerns that they expressed there. And there was a big argument there, but the transcript was just unsealed, which is a win for transparency. However, we also have issues where both parties still want to ban cameras and streaming the actual proceedings, which would just be a huge boon for Candace and all, the idiots. So hopefully they don't do that. But we've got a couple court hearings coming up in January, and a lot of the big things will be decided then. They haven't even arraigned him, by the way, yet.
One thing I thought was interesting in your reporting, you showed that apparently they've his own attorneys confirmed the government story. So I mean that doesn't, obviously, to be very clear for the people who are, oh, you're pushing Fed slop or whatever. It's like, I've studied enough crazy deep events where, I mean, it's not at all unheard of for the defense team to be infiltrated, or even so far as like it's all just some sort of show for the people. So this doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it is, it's more to the point of like, okay, still would like to see, the tape that magically went missing, but I guess this is currently their defense, like his own legal, that's the legal defense, not the legal defense, obviously that's not how they're defending it, but that is their stance. So this is what occurred. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. I mean, I know there's a missing tape. I think we had you on forever ago to cover that. There's that tape that went missing, or they said they no longer have, or whatever. But yeah, so they're saying that. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that particularly.
Well, that's the biggest piece of evidence that makes me think that the kid actually did do it, is the fact that his parents turned him in after he pretty much confessed, according to, I think, the arrest affidavit, and they drove him to the sheriff's office. And yeah, of course, I think some local reporters tried to FOIA footage of him being marched into jail, and they said they don't have it anymore, or like pretty much they said, we don't have to give it to you because you didn't request it within like a month or whatever, the FOIA law provides for. And Candace has also raised questions about this. Pretty much, I think her story was that, the reason the parents turned the kid in is because they were threatened, like, hey, we're going to raid your house with, a SWAT team and bring them in anyways, or we could do this the peaceful way. And I don't even know where she got that from. But she also said there's contradictions where Tyler threatened to kill himself if they turned him in. But that's something that was like just total bullshit. So that's just another example of Candace just kind of throwing anything against the wall that she can. But in any event, at the secret, this transcript from the secret hearing confirms that the lawyers did say that same story, that he turned himself in. And again, the reason I think this is credible is because Tyler Robinson was at that hearing. He's sitting right next to his attorneys while they say that to the judge. So it seems pretty compelling to me that this is actually what happened.
All right, let's get a little bit weird. This is something you shared. You didn't report this necessarily. I mean, I guess you you tweeted it. But I just kind of wanted to get your brain, because this is something I've had saved in my little bookmark folder for the show for a while now, and just kind of, I don't even know what to think about it, because I know it's meaningful, but I just keep like mulling it over, and I just don't even really know what to think. But apparently Daily Mail reported, this is the headline, Trump's secret succession plan to put Charlie Kirk in the Oval Office and groom a shock new VP, who is very close to home. And so you said here that Daily Mail is reporting that Charlie Kirk was supposed to be J.D. Vance's vice president, which I've had much to say about J.D. Vance as of late, and the Teal-averse as it is, and clearly that's the selected, that's the chosen one. But apparently, I guess Daily Mail was reporting that Kirk was supposed to be the VP, and then following up after that, there was going to be, I guess the next, the following 4 years or whatever, that or whenever it becomes Kirk's time to take the reins, that Donald Trump Jr. would be the VP, essentially trying to create like a dynasty of sorts. But what are your thoughts? I mean, is this, what kind of credence do you give this? I mean, what do you think that means? Because it's one of these things I just don't really know what to think of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I know the Daily Mail source was a Turning Point USA board member, so I would almost take it as a grain of salt. Although you have heard a lot of rumblings that Charlie Kirk would have eventually have run for president. He was being groomed to do that, and I think that's probably true. And I think the more interesting thing is learning more about Charlie Kirk, because I never really studied him much while he was alive. Is that apparently he actually was a big promoter of Vance and maybe even introduced him to Trump like at first. So I do find that interesting. And yeah, I think it could have been true that maybe he would have been Vance's VP, or down the line he would have started some campaign. I mean, he's a great debater. He's tall. he's got like the cookie cutter family and everything. So it's very plausible. What are the implications of this for, his killing? I don't think it really has much to do with that, but it's, I guess it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those ones where you're like, I don't even know what this means. But like, okay, I mean, maybe I'm trying to, I guess because I'm obviously incorporating the death. I mean, that could just be a random, completely not tied in thing, but it does kind of make you scratch your head and go, huh. But either way, I guess at least a little bit interesting look behind the curtain. Staying a little bit weird, I'll let you go after a couple more of these, but we were making fun of Candace becoming the new LOL cow. Here is, I just want to show you, because I talked about this last night, just as an example. Here's Nick Fuentes absolutely ratioing the shit out of him. I know obviously this isn't a substantive example of like if someone's destroyed or whatever, but it does show, I think, somewhat, especially when it's to this ridiculous of a degree, it shows where the people's energy's at, like what they think, generally speaking, especially when you have a sample size this large. So here's one back and forth. You literally see almost 3,000 likes from Candace's to a 14,000 from Nick Fuentes. Literally, I'll sum up this back and forth. I forget why there was, for some reason, Candace started saying something about her husband and how she met or whatever, and then Nick Fuentes popped in with, essentially, hey, what about John Mappin, the renowned Scientologist? And I don't think he mentioned that he's in Epstein's Black Book, who he could have, and a couple other things, and kind of repeatedly asked him, what's up with your relationship with this guy? What's up with your relationship with this guy? And she almost seemingly purposely avoids the point every single time, diverts it to some other thing. For example, at one point he mentions his, kind of young Russian Kazakh wife, kind of seemingly probably making allusions to some sort of her being basically a build-a-bitch, possibly. Which I don't know, who knows? But either way, then she gets on a tangent of is that weird? This, that, that's not what I'm asking. And I think people see through it, and I think this is an example of it. And just kind of the idea that she's cooked. And this isn't even, if you've been following my show, there's other shit out there that Nick didn't even have to dig deep into the well to find shit. This is if you've been following the John Mappin, he's been one of her biggest supporters recently. He's literally in Epstein's Black Book. He's one of the major Scientologists in the UK. He helped create TP UK, so the UK chapter of TP USA. And he's been one of the donors from TP USA, one of the only ones who kind of has been supporting Candace's grift through this. In very weird fashion. So he's also on Christmas Day put up this weird thing with him with a lizard mask on and giving a really creepy message. Weird shit, but I want to show you, and then obviously I don't have anything about the Mitch Snow stuff. That's just too ridiculous. I see people in the chat saying that there was an MP report in Sun's phone call confirmed for Huachka. I love you, Black Eye, but the little bit I paid attention, I don't know about the Sun's phone call, but I've seen people jumping on dumb shit. Actually, I know what you're talking about, the phone call. They're referring to placing him at the base, which, okay, sure, he was at the base. Perhaps. This MP report looks sketchy as fuck, the one I saw, to begin with. And even if you do assume it's true, it's literally saying that he showed up there, made some sort of crazy scene, and got kicked off the base. So it's not even it doesn't prove that he saw this secret meeting, and yet it proved he was in the vicinity. That's it. But I any thought? I didn't know if you have any thoughts. I just want to show you an example of clearly the dam's breaking on the Candace grift. Obviously Fuentes has his own gigantic following, but the stuff's spooky over there. For example, we can't even if you are someone who's oh no, that means you're Fed slop. I've talked about this show. I've had Dana on the show to talk about apparently. Michael Aquino's co-author of Mind War is literally on the board of TPUSA. So Lieutenant Colonel, yes, Lieutenant Colonel Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Ipsissimus. He is no, never mind. Paul Valley. I'm retarded. Paul Valley. I forget. I think it's something like that. But yes, here's Dana. It says such an easy shot at turning point to point of the late Colonel Michael Aquino's protector is on their board, which the reference to protector is because apparently there was a weird falling out with the over in the military or whatever about Aquino's satanic beliefs, and Vallely tried to claim he wasn't aware, whereas the stuff, it was later proven he's been aware because this is something that from the jump. But anyways, so yeah, and this was at the same time when Candace was there too. So not, whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But yeah, he's been on the board since at least 2018, Vallely. So yeah. He's the guy who was the co-author of From PSYOP to Mind War, The Psychology of Victory, Paul E. Vallely. So you can see right here, Paul E. Vallely, Advisory Council member, Major General, U.S. Army, was born in Dubois, Pennsylvania. He retired in 91 from the U.S. Army as Deputy Commanding General. He graduated from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, yada, yada, yada. You can see all his accolades. You can even point out he worked in special operations, psychological, and civil military operations, too. Don't even hide it. This is, Advisory Council member for TPUSA, Paul Vallely. You can see his name right here, Colonel Paul E. Valley. There he is. Wild shit. But yeah, so I mean, I'm saying this whole thing glows all around, and I think the dam's breaking, and hopefully people can break out of this silly little dialectic, and that it's like it's one or the other. No, maybe they're all retarded, or they're all playing you. One of the two. Be a little bit smarter. But Ken, I don't know if you have any thoughts. If you have any other thoughts, you can let them out now. Otherwise, I think I've kept you here long enough. We can let you go. I figured I'd show you a couple crazy canvases before I let you go, just to kind of let you know that I think you were right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love to see it. I mean, when I was going against her pretty much within weeks of the Kirk killing, and at the time, Fuentes always hated her, but it's pretty much like a bunch of Zionists. And I was one of the only anti-Zionist journalists doing this. And like a lot of people accused me of flipping too. I'd get like 20 comments every time I expressed skepticism. And now I see it's almost like a cottage industry of people debunking Candace. So I feel like my work here has been done. We've got like Alex Jones, Gary Melton, the Paramount Tactical account. Other people are constantly just debunking her. So, hopefully I'll never have to talk about Candace again, and good riddance. And have a happy new year. That's pretty much all I got to say.
Hell yeah. I don't know if you drop any plugs. I mean, you're over at Headline USA. I guess you don't really have any other plugs than that, but appreciate you being here. Let you go. I'll have you on again, I'm sure, some other time. I'll pop into the chat, say hello, and we'll run through some foreign policy and we get out of here. Appreciate you joining me today, bud.
All right. Have a good one. Take care.
All right. You too. Happy New Year's.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, guys, we'll pop in. We'll do we'll probably maybe do like, I don't know, should I say good mornings and all? That feels weird so late into the show. Maybe some of the last ones. Actually, let's pop in the first 10 minutes or so. We'll say good mornings to everybody. Maybe pop into the bottom, see if you have any thoughts, and then we'll run through some foreign policy and get out of here. Maybe call it an early day today. Good morning, Black Eye. Good morning. He says hello from 2026, living down under. He's in the future, buddy. Well, Happy New Year, since you're already there, Black Eye. Good morning, Alien Big Cat. Good morning, Daz. Good morning, Comment Mama. Good morning, Tilla. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, Balake. Good morning, Chad Head. Good morning, John Black. Says as we enter a new year, it's time to reflect on the important things like the fact you don't hate the government yet enough. Good morning, Uncle Ted. Good morning. Good morning. I don't know why you hate Ken so much. I never get it, but hey, I like Ken. Good morning, Issei. What now? Good morning, Ray and Cap. Says Happy New Year from Thailand. Happened 10 minutes ago. Are you over in Thailand, you little Thai lady boy, Ray? Appreciate you joining us today. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Bug Fights. Good morning. Good morning, Stinky Sock. It's great wall color choice. Well, it'll be different soon. Eventually get around to painting that wall. Good morning, Darn the Dragon. So, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Marna Mac. Good morning, Auburn Sky. Good morning, good morning. I think I've gone far enough. Let's pop into the bottom of the chat, see if any of you guys got... we'll say good morning to a couple of you guys near the bottom. Good morning, Mega Nerd. Here's Uncle Ted saying, I like Ken. He's dope. I swear to God, every time I mention Ken on the show, you have weird Fed jackety comments. So you have an odd way of showing it, Uncle Ted. But I'm glad you like him. Good morning, Mustache. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Tony Chin. Good morning, Shadows in the Cornfield. Let me see who else we got. See if there's anybody else. Good morning, Mike Full Liberty. Says something about Kyle on InfoWars. I didn't see what you're talking about there. Kyle dropping something on InfoWars. Let me see if I go back. Okay, here you go. Did you guys not see the video of the black autistic dude the FBI is trying to pin it on driving his blue Nissan at the same time the actual pipe bomber is supposed to be walking around? No, I didn't see that one particularly. We did talk a little bit about that. I don't know if that maybe was mentioned in passing. I mean, obviously, I think we kind of already both think that he's probably. I mean, I haven't dug really into enough to have an authoritative position or authoritative position on like what I think. And I guess not that authoritative. I wouldn't think it's authoritative. That I don't have a definitive position. That's what I mean to say. Authoritative was the wrong word. I don't really have a definitive position on it. Vibe based. I've kind of from the jump with this Norbit looking guy. Yeah, he does seem like a patsy. But he kind of seemed like a very convenient patsy for people whose case was falling apart. But yeah, so I guess you're saying Kyle dropped it. That's what Kyle dropped on InfoWars, which like I guess good for him. I don't know. I think people should stray away from that guy, but whatever. All right, guys, let's go through foreign policy. Let's run through the last. Let's go through the last little leg of the show here today. We're a little bit out of order, but. Tomorrow I should be back, maybe solo. Maybe we'll have Austin with us. I'm not sure. I won't be here Friday, by the way. My kiddo has a wrestling tournament, so I will not be here for the Friday dump. So sorry, you guys will have to wait till next week. But let's get into this foreign policy. Apparently, Israel is still up to their shenanigans. They killed an 11-year-old Palestinian girl in Gaza. So yes, great stuff. This was Dana Makata, and according to Mahmoud Basal, spokesman for Gaza's civil defense, she was killed in the Zarqa area of the Tufa neighborhood in northeast Gaza City. It says witnesses told the Palestinian news agency that Israeli military vehicles entered the area and fired indiscriminately, and one round hit Makata, killing her. So yeah, just shooting. Let's see if there's anything response from them. WAF also reported that a child and a woman were injured by an Israeli attack west. Well, I'm not seeing anything in here about a response about Israel confirming or giving an excuse or anything, which they probably stopped doing that a while ago. But yes, I would take that as probably a ceasefire violation. I know our president recently said that there are none, that they've been upholding their side of the deal 100%. But I would say murdering children that just might be breaking the ceasefire, because it would contain. It's literally fire. You're firing. So, you're therefore not ceasing the fire. But yeah, according to Donald Trump, they're following it 100%. We got a response from Iran about some of the nonsense from Netanyahu's visit recently. They're warning the response to any attack would be severe, which, I don't know. They all, let's be real. Any country is going to say that. But I think this time is believable, because we had those initial attacks, and they did have some sort of minor response, but it was all kind of coordinated. I don't buy that they're going to be able to save face again, and I also think they probably saved a good amount of those rockets. So I do think this could actually be, I don't know if interesting is the right word, bad, I guess. Although I kind of can't blame them. How often can you get shit on before they're going to lob some stuff back? And they do have the capability to fuck Israel up. So, we'll see. Not that I'm necessarily wishing anything happened there, but I don't know. I could totally get it. During all of this, too, we got Smotrich claiming that he has full U.S. support for illegal settler expansion in the occupied West Bank. So that's great that he's spreading that word around. That's just wonderful. Let's check in that. Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister of Israel, he's the backer of the illegal settler movement, said on 30 December that Washington has given Tel Aviv full support to expand settlements into the occupied West Bank in violation of international law. But whatever, it's just Bezalel saying it. Who gives a shit? He's just what does that mean? It doesn't mean nothing. It says the U.S. administration is giving us full support to expand settlements in the West Bank in order to undermine the establishment of a Palestinian state, Smotrich said. The statement coincided with Netanyahu's visit to the U.S. and came after a meeting between Netanyahu and Trump. It says, we have had a big discussion for a long time on the West Bank, and I wouldn't say we agree on the West Bank 100%, but we'll come to a conclusion in the West Bank, Trump said after a meeting. Oh, wow, quite the conclusion. When asked by reporters what the disagreement was about, Trump said, I don't want to do that. It will be announced at an appropriate time. Netanyahu will do the right thing, the U.S. president went to say. Since coming to power in 2022, Netanyahu's government has been rapidly advancing Israel's long-standing goal of annexing the West Bank, which is occupied illegally during the 1967 war. So, and just recently, Trump was claiming that he wouldn't allow Israel to annex the West Bank, which, let's be real, they already are, just as a matter of what degree of formality. And it sounds like they may have just completely given up the ghost and just letting them go to the highest level of formality and just fucking doing it. Now I think they'll probably be hush-hush about it. We'll see if they have the balls to just go, yep, that's what we did. And last story over here in foreign policy, not looking good on this Russia front. But I mean, obviously Zelensky's a little liar too, so who knows? But we got Zelensky out here saying that he's holding with Trump, talks with Trump on a U.S. troop deployment to Ukraine. So Zelensky said on Tuesday that he's held talks with Trump's on the possibility of the U.S. deploying troops to Ukraine. So he made the comment when asked if the U.S. plans to deploy troops as part of a security guarantee. He says, to be honest, this can only be confirmed by the President of the United States. These are U.S. troops, and therefore it is America that makes such decisions. And he says, of course, we are discussing this both with President Trump and with representatives of the coalition of the willing. He added, referring to a group of European countries led by the UK and France that are pushing for a deployment of NATO troops to Ukraine as part of a peace deal, an idea Russia has repeatedly rejected. He also said he would like to see U.S. troops deployed to Ukrainian territory as part of the guarantee. Also on Tuesday, Donald Tusk, the Polish prime minister, claimed the U.S. has already agreed to deploy troops to Ukraine as part of its security guarantees. U.S. officials have said the U.S. has offered NATO Article 5 style security guarantees to Ukraine, but have not said that the U.S. is willing to send troops. So for those who aren't aware of the article, that's literally like the whole thing to start over, is that we didn't want to give NATO involvement. So now it's technically not. They're saying it's Article 5 style, so I guess it depends on like what does that exactly mean. But if it is any sort of security guarantee so far as we will go to war if this situation, that is a problem, because that's kind of default the same thing, the same issue as the whole NATO involvement. According to Zelensky, the U.S. has agreed to provide a 15-year security guarantee. Great. Either a NATO-style security guarantee or a NATO troop deployment would almost certainly be rejected by Moscow, and the fact that the ideas are on the table makes a peace deal extremely unlikely. After holding talks with Zelensky in Florida on Sunday, President Trump said the issue of land is also not settled as Ukraine is refusing to cede the territory it still controls in the Donbass, a key Russian demand. So great. Isn't it great? We finally ended the war over in Russia. Thank God we have President Trump. Isn't that right? All right, guys, let's roll with the chat. Say hi's, all that good stuff. And then we'll probably get out of here. Pretty early day today. Let me see what you guys got to say. Mega Nerd says, what struck me odd was the same week the news story about being the policewoman, they finally find the guy. Yeah, well, that was right after their story. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the policewoman, the lady we were talking about, and then they find that Norbit-looking guy in reference to the J6 pipe bomb story. Yeah, I did. I mean, obviously, who knows? You can never put too much stock into single little anecdotal occurrences, but it was awfully convenient that right when the Blaze's story was falling to absolute shit, that we get this obvious, like very obvious looking Patsy, so that they can go, oh, well, that's totally not the guy. You guys are so stupid. Meanwhile, what they said was probably fucking stupid as well. Although maybe they were correct, but it clearly was built on quicksand. So very, very shitty reporting. So, Tilla says, didn't Iran declare war on U.S.? I don't think so. Not that I recall. Maybe. Gerald says Jose is handsome. That's the last time I'm going to say that in 2025. Well, there'll be many more times for that here in 2026. PJR says, are we having fun yet? Yeah, lots of fun. Shadows in Cornfield says, when organizations or governments do exactly what the U.S. and Israel need them to, I'm a little suspicious. Me and you too, brother. Tony Chin is telling us to watch the news tonight and avoid public spaces. Okay, I don't know if you're meaning referring to. Oh, I get what you're saying, because it is New Year's tonight, so it's like kind of higher chance of things happening. All right, guys, let's pop in. Let's say our goodbyes. I'll play an outro. If you guys have anything else interesting to pop into the chat, I don't have anything else for you guys. I think that's it. I know a little bit shorter than what we normally do here, but we managed our time too well today. But for those who want to support what I'm doing over here, you can leave a like, share, subscribe, comment, leave a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. You can find the show on YouTube, Rumble, all the major audio podcatchers, and Twitter as well, at TowerGangJose. And if you want to support the show the best way you can do that with money. You can see that right here, up here, QR code, over at patreon.com/NoWayJose2020. The lowest level is $2. That gives you access to a whole host of different perks. You get access to early episodes. I do 1 to 2 of those per week. Try to keep out 4 behind the paywall at any given time. You also get access to the ad-free RSS feed. Get access to Telegram and the pre-show, post-show, and video calls. Me and Austin's weekly live call-in show already dead. And I give a big shout out to my sponsors. Every episode is a big thank you for everything they do. That's the highest level of my Patreon. I have my previous coach on Tower Gang at Leonard Toad, also at Abrogate D's, at ZOVRCK, at _Zeal, Tim Tuttle, at Jolly and Klebold, big fan of the show. Torrin May at Wayne Tackless, One I Heard Car for Kids, No Free Lunch, Jack Mark Vestibule, and Jacob Wintergrad, The Biblical Anarchy Podcast. See if there's anything else in the chat. Tony says, God bless everyone. Goodbye. See you in the future, says Black Eye. Shadows in the cornfields. Remember those pagers? Obviously, they were handed out by someone who was trusted unwisely. All right, guys, we're out of here. Enjoy this outro. Here's another one of these, the sort of things that my daughter would send me, and I think is hilarious, and I realize the kids are doing all right. I don't think she actually sent me the specific one. She shows me these sort of stupid Charlie Kirk memes all the time, so figured you guys may enjoy this one. I'll see you guys tomorrow, probably around noonish. Love you all. Bye-bye.
That's why 98% of wiggers are white. What's up, big
Faggot
dog?
on the roof. We have a faggot on the roof.
You mean a sniper?
Where do snipers sit? On roofs. Faggot on the roof. Kill the fucking faggot.
My nigga, we got a problem.
Don't worry about it, Pookie. 2 Wigger missiles are en route.
And that's why